Dr. Kelly Winfrey is assistant professor at the Greenlee School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Iowa State and also part of the faculty with the Carrie Chapman Catt Center for Women in Politics. She wrote a book on how and why women vote. Well, this year, to her surprise, you might say, she became a candidate and she won a seat on the Ames School Board.
Oh, well, I decided to run because I couldn't convince enough other people to run. It's the short answer. I was concerned when we had three school board members who decided not to run for another term. And there are a lot of big issues, obviously, with COVID, with the content of our course and diversity work. But also, Ames is going to be hiring a new superintendent. So I thought that was such an important role. I wanted to make sure that we had good candidates that represented Ames values making those decisions. And ultimately, after asking several other people to run, they just kept telling me to do it. So I just did.
So you've studied elections, you've written countless papers about elections and books and all this stuff for years. Knowing all of that, how did you, the candidate, spend election night? Because Story County took a while before the numbers came in. So how did you pass the time?
I watched reruns of SNL and tried to relax and have some fun while refreshing the Story County Auditor's page every few minutes, waiting for results. I would have liked to have a big election party, but we're still being safe. And not doing big gatherings, but there was lots of texting with campaign members and volunteers and friends, and kind of the excitement was there. But I felt pretty confident going into election night, but you don't know until the numbers are in. So it was, the later it went, the more nervous I was.
Okay, so this is the personal side. The professional side, what did you take more broadly about everything that we experienced on election night? This surge in interest in school board races, city council races. What did you see overall that was going on?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is what you mentioned, this surge of interest. There's so much more interest in these local races this time than there has been previously. And I think in large part because the past couple years, there have been a lot of decisions made at the local levels, both with city councils and with school boards related to COVID or related to what kind of content we should or should not have in our classrooms. So there's been heightened attention and coverage about that for the past year and a half, 2 years. And I think that fueled some of that. And I think it's somewhat misguided, but in a lot of ways, the school boards in particular have been become this site for serious debates about cultural issues. And that has people very passionate and emotional. And so more engaged in those things than they usually are. When I've advised candidates in the past or done campaign trainings, I usually tell people, if you're running for city council or school board, talk to people. It doesn't usually get nasty. People are generally pretty nice. And I'll say, in my experience, most people I talked to were very nice. But this cycle obviously was a little bit different because people were much more engaged and much more passionate about what they supported or did not support.
So what's the way to handle this conversation about diversity? As we look at different communities, there were different outcomes. There in Ames, there were those who talked about the necessity being necessary to talk about diversity and inclusion in schools. In some places in Des Moines suburbs, it was the other side of that where they were talking about they don't want children indoctrinated, they don't want children taught to hate their country, to hate other people. How is this conversation going to go forward in school districts across our state?
I think the big thing is there needs to be more and clear communication about what we mean when we talk about diversity and inclusion in education. One of the things that I found with talking with voters was that there was kind of a misunderstanding about what we even meant by that, right? That this kind of boogeyman of critical race theory has become a catch-all for something that isn't really happening in a lot of schools. What we're actually talking about teaching is, celebrating diversity, representing different cultures, different races, understanding American history. And I think that there are some folks who have just don't have a good understanding of what's going on, and that's not their fault. I think that school districts need to do more to engage the community and parents in what we're doing so that we can all kind of be on the same page. And that's one of the things that came out of this was, as I talked to people and they'd say, well, what about this? And why are they teaching my kid this? And I would explain the why, and they'd go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so it kind of occurred to me, maybe we're just not even starting from the same place and having enough of a conversation about what we're doing and why.
Up next, the legacy of an Iowa icon.